The Mafia boss gives a second chance to a homeless woman. Her long, messy hair shocks the party. This is a story about the night Vincent Caruso looked into the eyes of someone the world had forgotten and saw something that would change both of their lives forever. The November rain fell hard on the streets of Chicago, turning the sidewalks into rivers of grey water that carried cigarette butts and crumpled receipts toward the storm drains. It was the kind of night that made people walk faster, heads down, umbrellas tilted against the wind, the kind of night that made the homeless invisible. Vincent Caruso sat in the back of his black Mercedes, watching the city blur past the tinted windows. He was 53 years old, with silver hair combed back from a face that had seen more than most men see in 3 lifetimes. His suit cost more than some people made in a month. His watch could pay for a year of college tuition. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, he was thinking about his daughter. Sophia would have been 32 this year. She would have been a doctor maybe, or a lawyer. She had wanted to help people, that much he remembered, before the car accident, before the funeral, before the years of grief that had turned his heart into something cold and hard, like a stone at the bottom of a frozen lake. The car stopped at a red light on Michigan Avenue. Through the rain-streaked window, Vincent noticed a figure huddled in the doorway of a closed jewelry store. Woman, wrapped in what looked like a garbage bag, her hair hanging in long tangled ropes around her face. She was shaking, whether from cold or hunger or fear he could not tell. Something made him lean forward. "Driver," he said quietly. The man behind the wheel glanced in the rearview mirror. "Yes, Mr. Caruso." "Stop the car." "Here, sir. Here." The driver pulled to the curb, and Vincent stepped out into the rain. His bodyguard, Marco, was instantly at his side, one hand reaching inside his coat. "Boss, what are you doing?" Vincent did not answer. He walked toward the doorway, his expensive shoes splashing through puddles, his coat quickly becoming soaked. The woman looked up as he approached, and he saw her face for the first time. She was younger than he had expected, maybe 30, maybe less. It was hard to tell beneath the dirt and the exhaustion. Her eyes were brown, large and frightened, like the eyes of an animal that had been hunted for too long. Her hair was extraordinary, even in its matted, tangled state, falling past her shoulders, past her waist, nearly to her knees. It was the color of dark chocolate, with streaks of something lighter running through it. She pressed herself back against the door, trying to disappear. "Please," she whispered, "I will move. I am sorry. I will go." Her accent was faint, but unmistakable. Eastern European, Vincent thought. Polish, maybe, or Russian. "I am not here to hurt you," he said. His voice was rough from years of cigarettes and shouting, but he tried to make it gentle. "When did you last eat?" The woman stared at him, clearly not believing what she was hearing. Men in expensive suits did not stop in the rain to ask homeless women about their last meal. Not in this city, not in any city. "I do not remember," she finally said. "Yesterday, maybe. There was bread." Vincent turned to Marco. "Get her in the car." "Boss, with all due respect," Marco began. "Did I stutter?" Marco knew better than to argue twice. He helped the woman to her feet, which was not easy because she could barely stand. She weighed almost nothing, Vincent noticed, like a bird, like a ghost. In the warm interior of the Mercedes, she sat as far from Vincent as possible, pressing herself against the door, her eyes darting between the two men. She smelled like the street, like garbage and sweat and rain, but Vincent had smelled worse in his life. "What is your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Elena. Elena. That is a beautiful name. My mother was named Elena." He paused. "Where are you from, Elena?" Another hesitation. "Ukraine. Kiev. How long have you been in America?" 2 years. "And how long have you been on the street?" She looked down at her hands, which were cracked and dirty, the nails broken. 8 months. Vincent nodded slowly. He did not ask how she had ended up homeless. He knew there were 1,000 roads that led to that doorway, and none of them were pleasant. What mattered was what happened next. "I am having a party tomorrow night," he said. At my home. Very important people will be there. Business associates, politicians, celebrities. He paused. I would like you to come. Eleanor looked at him as if he had just spoken in a language she did not understand. Me? You? Why? It was a fair question, and Vincent was not entirely sure of the answer. Because it is cold, he said finally. Because you are hungry. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Elena studied his face for a long moment, searching for the lie, the trick, the hidden cruelty. But she found nothing except the tired eyes of a man who had seen too much of the world. I have nothing to wear, she said quietly. I have nothing. That, Vincent said, will not be a problem. He gave instructions to the driver, and the car pulled away from the curb, carrying all three of them into the Chicago night. The Caruso mansion sat on 5 acres of lakefront property in Winnetka, one of the wealthiest suburbs north of the city. It was a massive stone structure built in the 1920s by a Tao railroad tycoon with 27 rooms, a ballroom, an indoor swimming pool, and gardens that had been featured in architectural magazines. Vincent had bought it 15 years ago, after his wife had left him, as if the size of his house could somehow fill the emptiness in his life. The staff were accustomed to unusual requests. Over the years, they had prepared meals for visiting dignitaries, set up elaborate parties with less than a day's notice, and maintained the kind of discretion that came with working for a man whose business dealings were best left unexamined. But even they raised their eyebrows when Vincent walked through the front door with a homeless woman. Mrs. Rodriguez, the head housekeeper, was the first to recover. Mr. Caruso, she said smoothly, should I prepare a guest room? The blue room, Vincent said, and draw a bath, a long one. Eleanor stood in the marble foyer, her garbage bag coat dripping water onto the floor, looking up at the crystal chandelier as if she had never seen anything like it. She probably had not. This is your house, she asked. This is my house. She shook her head slowly. I do not understand. Why are you helping me? Vincent thought about the question. Because I can, he said. Because someone should. He turned to the housekeeper. Mrs. Rodriguez will take care of you. Get some sleep. We have a lot to do tomorrow. He started to walk away, then paused. Elena. Yes? I am not a good man, he said. I have done things that I am not proud of. But I'm trying to be better. Do you understand? Elena looked at him for a long moment. Yes, she said. I understand. She did not know it yet, but those words would change both of their lives forever. The blue room was larger than any apartment Elena had ever lived in. The bed was enormous, covered with silk sheets and goose-down pillows. The bathroom had a marble tub big enough for 3 people, with gold fixtures and towels so soft they felt like clouds. Mrs. Rodriguez helped her undress, which was humiliating but necessary, because Elena's fingers were too stiff and cold to work the buttons and zippers. When her clothes were removed, the housekeeper's expression remained carefully neutral, but Elena could see the shock in her eyes. The months on the street had not been kind. Her ribs were visible beneath her skin. Her legs were covered with bruises and scrapes. Her feet were blistered and calloused, and her hair, that extraordinary hair, was so tangled that it looked like a single, solid mass. We will take care of this, Mrs. Rodriguez said. Her voice was gentle but firm. Tomorrow we will bring in professionals, but tonight you rest. The hot water was almost painful against Elena's skin, which had forgotten what warmth felt like. She soaked until the water turned grey, then soaked some more. When she finally climbed out, Mrs. Rodriguez was waiting with a robe that was softer than anything Eleanor had ever worn. There is food in the room, the housekeeper said. Soup, bread, fruit, small portions. Your stomach will not be able to handle much at first. Elena nodded. She wanted to say thank you, but the words seemed inadequate for what was happening. So instead, she just looked at the older woman and hoped that her gratitude showed in her eyes. Mrs. Rodriguez seemed to understand. Sleep, she said. Tomorrow is a big day. Alone in the blue room, Elena sat on the edge of the bed and looked around at the luxury that surrounded her. She thought about the doorway where she had been sitting just a few hours ago, the cold rain, the hunger, the despair. She thought about the 2 years since she had come to America, full of hope and dreams, only to have them crushed one by one until there was nothing left. And she thought about the man who had stopped his car in the rain, the man with the tired eyes and the silver hair who had looked at her and seen something worth saving. She did not know who Vincent Caruso really was. She did not know about the businesses that operated in the shadows, the deals made in back rooms, the enemies who had disappeared without a trace. She only knew that he had offered her a second chance, and she was going to take it. Outside, the rain continued to fall on the city of Chicago, washing the streets clean, preparing for a new day. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel. Every week we bring stories of redemption and unexpected kindness that will restore your faith in humanity. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment. The morning arrived grey and cold, but inside the Caruso mansion everything was warm and bright. Elena woke slowly, disoriented by the softness of the bed, the silence of the room, the absence of fear. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Then she remembered, and the memory hit her like a wave. She sat up, half expecting to discover that it had all been a dream. But the blue room was real. The silk sheets were real. The tray of food on the bedside table, untouched from the night before, was real. There was a knock at the door, and Mrs. Rodriguez entered with a young woman carrying a breakfast tray. "Good morning," the housekeeper said. "How did you sleep?" Elena considered the question. "I do not remember," she admitted. "I closed my eyes and then it was morning. That is the best kind of sleep." Mrs. Rodriguez gestured to the young woman, who set down the tray and left quietly. "Some breakfast, and then we have a lot of work to do. Mr. Caruso's party begins at 7 o'clock. The breakfast was simple but delicious. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, coffee. Eleanor ate slowly, as instructed, though her body screamed at her to devour everything in sight. After months of scrounging for food in dumpsters and accepting handouts from strangers, a real meal felt like a miracle. While she ate, Mrs. Rodriguez explained the plan. A team of specialists would arrive at noon: a hairstylist, a makeup artist, a manicurist, a dress consultant. They had been given instructions to transform Elena into a guest worthy of the Caruso party. "Mr. Caruso must throw these parties often," Elena said. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. "Mr. Caruso does many things that surprise people," she said, "but I have worked for him for 12 years, and I have never seen him bring someone home from the street." She paused. "You must be special." Eleanor did not feel special. She felt confused and scared and grateful and suspicious all at the same time. She wanted to believe that Vincent Caruso was exactly what he appeared to be, a wealthy man with a good heart, offering a helping hand to someone in need. But she had been in America long enough to know that nothing was ever that simple. "Tell me about him," she said. "Mr. Caruso. What kind of man is he?" Mrs. Rodriguez's expression became careful. "He is a complicated man," she said finally. "He has done things that some people would not approve of, but he has also done things that have helped many people." She met Elena's eyes. I believe that he is trying to make up for his past. Whether he will succeed, only God knows." It was not exactly a ringing endorsement, but it was honest, and Eleanor appreciated that. The specialists arrived at noon, as promised. There were 4 of them: a hairstylist named Antonio, a makeup artist named Jasmine, a manicurist named Kim, and a dress consultant named Patricia. They filled the blue room with their equipment and their energy, chattering in a mix of English and Spanish and something. That might have been Italian. Antonio took one look at Elena's hair and crossed himself. "Madre de Dios," he whispered. "When was the last time someone touched this?" "I do not remember," Elena admitted. "A long time." Antonio circled her slowly, examining the tangled mass from all angles. It was even more impressive in the daylight, a cascade of dark brown that fell almost to her knees, hopelessly matted and knotted, but somehow still beautiful. "We cannot save all of it," he said finally. "Some of it will have to be cut, but I think we can save most. It will take time." It took 4 hours. Antonio worked with the patience of a saint, starting from the bottom and working his way up, using specialized tools and products to detangle each section. He cut away the parts that were beyond saving, mourning each strand as if it were a fallen soldier. He washed and conditioned and treated, talking to Elena the whole time about his childhood in Puerto Rico, his years of training in New York, his dreams of opening his own salon. Elena found herself relaxing under his gentle hands. She told him about Kiev, about her family, about her journey to America. She told him about the dreams she had carried with her, dreams of a new life, a fresh start. She told him about the jobs that had not worked out, the apartment she had lost, the slow descent into homelessness. Antonio listened without judgment. When she finished, he squeezed her shoulder. "You are strong," he said, "stronger than you know. And tonight, everyone at that party is going to see it." By the time he was finished, Elena barely recognized herself. Her hair fell in smooth, shining waves past her shoulders, shorter than before, but still dramatic. Antonio had added subtle highlights that caught the light, making her look like a movie star from another era. Jasmine worked on her makeup next, enhancing her features without overwhelming them. She had high cheekbones and full lips, Jasmine said, features that most women paid surgeons to create. Kim attended to her hands and feet, removing the calluses and filing the nails, painting them a deep burgundy that matched her lips. And then Patricia brought out the dress. It was midnight blue, the color of the sky just before dawn, with delicate silver embroidery along the bodice and hem. It fit Elena perfectly, hugging her curves in all the right places while still maintaining an air of elegance and sophistication. She stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring at her reflection, unable to believe what she was seeing. The woman in the mirror was not a homeless immigrant who had been sleeping in doorways. She was something else entirely, something beautiful. "Mr. Caruso has good taste," Patricia said. "He described exactly what he wanted." She smiled. "I think he will be pleased." Eleanor turned this way and that, watching the dress flow around her. She felt like Cinderella, transformed by magic for one night, but she knew that magic was not real. This was something else. This was a man who had looked at her and seen potential, possibility, a future. She did not know why Vincent Caruso had chosen her. She did not know what he expected in return, but she knew that tonight she was going to make the most of this second chance. The party began at 7 o'clock, and by 8, the ballroom was filled with some of the most powerful people in Chicago. There were businessmen and politicians, celebrities and socialites, all dressed in their finest, drinking expensive champagne and making deals that would shape the city's future. Vincent stood near the entrance, greeting guests with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He was thinking about Elena, wondering how she was doing, wondering if she was ready. "She is coming down now," Marco said quietly. Vincent turned toward the grand staircase and his breath caught in his throat. Elena descended slowly, one hand on the railing, her eyes fixed on his face. Her hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of silk, catching the light from the chandeliers shimmering with each step. Her dress moved around her like water, revealing and concealing in equal measure. She was radiant, luminous, otherworldly. The room fell silent. Vincent had attended hundreds of parties in his life. He had seen beautiful women, famous women, powerful women, but he had never seen anything like this. It was not just her appearance, although that was stunning. It was something in her eyes, something in the way she carried herself, a dignity that could not be bought or taught, a strength that had been forged in suffering. She reached the bottom of the stairs, and Vincent stepped forward to take her hand. "You look beautiful," he said. Elena smiled, and for a moment she looked almost shy. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Vincent tucked her hand into the crook of his arm and led her into the room. The guests parted before them, whispering, wondering, speculating. Who was this woman? Where had she come from? What was her connection to Vincent Caruso? Let them wonder, Vincent thought. Let them all wonder. He introduced her to mayors and millionaires, to actresses and athletes, to people whose names appeared in newspapers and people whose names were never spoken aloud. Elena handled them all with grace, speaking when spoken to, smiling when appropriate, never revealing more than she needed to. She was a natural, Vincent realized, or perhaps she had been trained. He made a mental note to ask her about her past when the time was right. The evening progressed smoothly, with dinner and dancing and speeches. Vincent gave a toast to his guests, thanking them for their support, hinting at deals to come. Elena sat beside him at the head table, eating little, watching everything. And then the trouble arrived. His name was Richard Blackwell, and he was one of Vincent's oldest enemies. They had been rivals for decades, competing for territory, for influence, for power. Their conflicts had cost both of them dearly over the years, and there was no love lost between them. "Vincent," Richard said, approaching the table with a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Wonderful party, as always." He turned to Elena, his eyes narrowing. "And who is this lovely creature?" "This is Elena," Vincent said. "A friend." A friend. Richard's smile was thin and cold. "I do not recall seeing her at any of your previous events." "She is new to Chicago," Vincent said. "Is that so?" Richard leaned closer, studying Elena's face. "You know, there is something familiar about her, something I cannot quite place." Elena met his gaze steadily. "I do not believe we have met," she said. "No," Richard said slowly. "No, I do not think we have. But I never forget a face, and yours is quite memorable." He walked away, leaving an uncomfortable silence behind him. "Who is that man?" Elena asked quietly. "Someone you should stay away from," Vincent said. He looked at her, his expression serious. "If he approaches you again, tell me immediately." Elena nodded, but something in her eyes had changed. A shadow had crossed her face, and Vincent could not tell what it meant. The rest of the evening passed without incident. The guests danced and drank and made deals. Elena charmed everyone she met, her accent and her beauty and her mysterious origins, making her the subject of endless fascination. By midnight, the party was winding down. The guests were leaving, calling for their cars, thanking Vincent for his hospitality. Elena stood by the window looking out at the lake, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Vincent approached her. "You did well tonight," he said. "Thank you," she said. She did not turn around. "Something is wrong." It was not a question, and Elena did not try to pretend otherwise. "That man," she said, "Richard Blackwell. What about him?" Elena finally turned to face him. She was pale, and there was fear in her eyes. Fear that she had been hiding all evening. "I know who he is," she said quietly. "I have seen his face before. In Kiev." Vincent felt his stomach clench. "What do you mean?" Elena took a deep breath. 2 years ago, there was a man who came to my city. A businessman, they said. He was looking for investors, for partners. My father was a banker. He was approached. Vincent said nothing, waiting. "The deal went wrong," Elena continued. "My father lost everything. Our house, our savings, our future. And then, when he tried to fight back, he was—" She paused, struggling for the right word. "Removed." "You mean killed," Vincent said. "I mean removed," Elena said. "We never found his body." Vincent was silent for a long moment. "And you think Richard Blackwell was responsible?" "I know he was," Elena said. "I saw him, the day my father disappeared. He came to our house. He smiled at me, and then my father was gone." She looked at Vincent, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I did not know," she said. "When you brought me here, I did not know that you and he were connected. If I had known, I would have said something. We are not connected," Vincent said. "We are enemies. We have been for years." Elena studied his face, searching for the truth. "You believe me?" "I believe you." "Why?" "Because I have seen what Richard Blackwell is capable of," Vincent said, "and because I know what it looks like when someone is telling the truth about a terrible thing." He reached out and took her hand. "Stay here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we will talk. We will figure out what to do." Elena nodded, but she did not look reassured. She looked like a woman who had just realized that the past she had been running from had finally caught up with her. Outside, the wind off the lake was cold and fierce, rattling the windows of the mansion. Somewhere in the darkness, Richard Blackwell was thinking about the woman with the remarkable hair, trying to remember where he had seen her face before. And Vincent Caruso was beginning to understand that the second chance he had offered Elena was going to cost him more than he had ever imagined. The next morning, Vincent sat in his study surrounded by leather-bound books and expensive art, trying to make sense of what Elena had told him. He had spent years building his empire, navigating the complicated waters of Chicago's underworld, making alliances and enemies in equal measure. But he had never expected that a random act of kindness would pull him into a story of international intrigue and personal revenge. Marco stood by the door, his face impassive. "What do you want to do, boss?" "I want to know everything," Vincent said. "About Richard Blackwell's activities in Eastern Europe, about Elena's father, about what really happened in Kiev. That is a lot of digging. Then get a bigger shovel." Marco nodded and left. Vincent sat alone, staring at the empty fireplace, thinking about Sophia. His daughter had believed in second chances. She had volunteered at homeless shelters, had donated her allowance to charity, had wanted to spend her life helping others. She would have liked Elena, he thought. She would have understood why he had stopped the car in the rain. There was a knock at the door and Elena entered. She was wearing simple clothes now, jeans and a sweater that Mrs. Rodriguez had provided, but she still looked beautiful. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, revealing the delicate bones of her face. "You wanted to see me," she said. "Sit down," Vincent said. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." Elena sat in the chair across from his desk and began to talk. She told him about her childhood in Kiev, about her father the banker, about the comfortable middle-class life they had lived. She told him about the day the American businessman had arrived, with his smooth smile and his promises of wealth. She told him about the investment that had gone wrong, the money that had disappeared, the threats that had followed. "My father tried to go to the authorities," she said, "but they did nothing. The businessman had friends, important friends. My father was alone. And then he disappeared. One morning he left for work and never came back. No body, no explanation, nothing, just gone." Eleanor's voice was steady, but Vincent could see the pain in her eyes. It was the pain of a wound that had never healed, a loss that had never been mourned properly. "I tried to investigate," she continued. "I talked to people, asked questions. But everyone was afraid. Finally, someone told me the truth. The American businessman was not just a businessman. He was connected to powerful people, dangerous people. He had done this before in other countries. He found targets, stole their money, and eliminated anyone who fought back. And you came to America to find him?" Eleanor shook her head. "No. I came to America because I had nothing left. My mother had died years earlier. My father was gone. There was nothing for me in Kiev. So I applied for a visa, scraped together enough money for a plane ticket, and came to start over. But it did not work out. No, it did not work out. The jobs I could find did not pay enough. The apartment I rented was sold. One thing led to another, and eventually—" She shrugged. "You found me in a doorway." Vincent was silent for a moment. "And seeing Richard Blackwell last night, that was pure coincidence?" Elena nodded. "I did not know he was in Chicago. I did not know he was connected to you. When I saw his face, I felt like I was going to be sick." Vincent leaned back in his chair, processing everything. The situation was more complicated than he had thought. Richard Blackwell was not just a business rival. He was apparently an international criminal, responsible for Elena's father's disappearance, and God knew what else. And now Elena was in Vincent's house, under his protection, which meant that sooner or later Richard would find out. "You understand what this means," Vincent said. "If Richard realizes who you are, he will come for you." "I know. Are you willing to take that risk?" Elena met his eyes. "I have been running for 2 years," she said. "I am tired of running. If there is a chance to find out what really happened to my father, to make Richard Blackwell pay for what he did, I am willing to take any risk." Vincent nodded slowly. "Good," he said. Because I have been waiting a long time for an opportunity like this. An opportunity to bring Richard Blackwell down, Vincent said. He has been a thorn in my side for decades, but I could never find the right angle, the right weakness. Now, maybe I have. Elena frowned. I do not understand. How does my story help you? Richard has been careful, Vincent explained. He covers his tracks, pays off the right people, makes sure there is never any evidence. But if what you say is true, then there are loose ends. People in Kiev who know what really happened. Records that were never destroyed. A trail that leads back to him. And you want me to help you follow that trail? I want us to work together, Vincent said. You have information that I need. I have resources that you need. Together maybe we can do what neither of us could do alone. Elena was silent, thinking. It was a lot to take in. 24 hours ago, she had been shivering in a doorway, wondering if she would survive another night on the street. Now she was sitting in a mansion, being offered a chance at revenge against the man who had destroyed her family. There is one thing I need to know, she said finally. What? Last night at the party, when Richard looked at me, did you see the way he reacted? Vincent nodded. He recognized something, but he did not place it. Not yet. No, not yet. Elena leaned forward. Then we have to move quickly, she said, before he figures it out, before he remembers. Vincent smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had been playing this game for a very long time. I was hoping you would say that, he said. The investigation began that afternoon. Vincent made phone calls to contacts in Europe, people who owed him favors, people who could find information that others could not. Marco coordinated with a network of investigators, both legal and otherwise, digging into Richard Blackwell's past, and Elena, for her part, wrote down everything she remembered, names, dates, places, conversations, details that had seemed insignificant at the time but might prove crucial now. She worked for hours, filling page after page with her neat, careful handwriting. By evening, they had a plan. It was risky, complicated, and potentially deadly. But it was also their best chance at bringing Richard Blackwell to justice. There is one thing you should know, Vincent said as they finished dinner. The people I am working with, the methods we are using, they are not always conventional. Elena raised an eyebrow. You mean illegal? I mean necessary. She considered this. My father was a banker, she said finally. He believed in rules, in laws, in doing things the right way. And look what it got him. So you are willing to bend the rules? I am. Willing to do whatever it takes, Elena said, to find out what happened to my father, to make the people responsible pay. If that means working with people who do not follow the rules, then so be it. Vincent studied her face. She was not the same woman he had found in the doorway. Something had changed in her eyes. A hardness, a determination, a willingness to fight. He was not sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but he was glad to have her on his side. If you are watching this story and feeling something in your heart, comment right now with these words: Justice will come. Let me know that you believe in second chances too. 3 weeks passed, and the investigation proceeded slowly but steadily. Vincent's contacts in Europe sent reports, documents, testimonies. A picture was beginning to emerge, and it was uglier than anyone had expected. Richard Blackwell, it turned out, had been running the same scheme for over 20 years. He would identify wealthy targets in developing countries, people with money but without connections. He would approach them with investment opportunities, gain their trust, and then systematically drain their assets. When the victims tried to fight back, they would disappear. There were at least a dozen confirmed cases, spread across Ukraine, Romania, Poland, and Russia. Eleanor's father was just one of many. The others had been forgotten, their families too afraid or too powerless to seek justice. But now, finally, someone was paying attention. We have enough, Marco said one evening, spreading documents across Vincent's desk. Financial records, witness statements, even a few photographs. If we take this to the right people, Blackwell is finished. Vincent studied the papers. The right people, he repeated. And who would that be? Marco shrugged. The FBI, maybe. Or the State Department. Someone with the power to make an arrest, to bring him to trial. And how long would that take? Months. Maybe years. You know how these things work. Vincent shook his head. Too long. Richard is suspicious. He has been asking questions about Elena, trying to figure out where he has seen her before. If we wait for the legal system, he will find out the truth and disappear. Then what do you suggest? Vincent was silent for a moment, thinking. There was another way, a faster way, but it would mean crossing a line that he had sworn never to cross again. Before he could answer, there was a commotion in the hallway. Raised voices, scuffling, feet. Marco drew his weapon and moved toward the door, but before he could reach it, the door burst open. Richard Blackwell strode into the room, flanked by 2 of his own bodyguards. He was smiling, but there was nothing pleasant about it. "Vincent," he said, "we need to talk." Vincent remained seated, his expression calm. "This is my house, Richard. You were not invited." "No," Richard agreed, "but I think you will want to hear what I have to say." He turned and looked directly at Eleanor, who had been sitting quietly in the corner. "Especially you." Elena did not flinch. She met his gaze steadily, her face revealing nothing. Richard walked toward her slowly, studying her face. "I have been trying to remember," he said, "where I have seen you before. It has been driving me crazy for weeks. And then, this morning, it finally came to me." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. It was old, slightly faded, but the image was clear. A young woman standing next to an older man, both of them smiling. "Kiev," Richard said, 2022. Your father was Alexei Volkov, the banker." He paused. "And you are his daughter, the one who got away." Elena's face remained impassive, but Vincent could see her hands trembling slightly. "I do not know what you are talking about," she said. "Do not insult my intelligence," Richard said. He tossed the photograph onto the table. "I never forget a face, especially one that cost me so much trouble." Vincent stood up slowly. "Richard," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "I think you should leave." "Or what?" Richard laughed. "You will have me removed? By your bodyguard?" He gestured at his own men. "I think we are evenly matched, old friend." The room was tense, charged with the possibility of violence. Vincent's mind raced, calculating options, looking for an angle. "What do you want, Richard?" he asked finally. Richard smiled. "A simple thing, really. The girl comes with me, and in exchange I will forget about this little investigation you have been conducting." Vincent felt his blood run cold. "How did you know about that?" "I have my sources," Richard said, "just like you have yours." "Did you really think you could move against me without my knowledge?" Vincent said nothing. He had underestimated Richard, and now they were all in danger. "So," Richard continued, turning back to Eleanor, "what do you say? Will you come quietly, or do we need to do this the hard way?" Eleanor stood up slowly. She was pale, but her voice was steady. "What happened to my father?" Richard shrugged. "He asked too many questions, just like you are doing now. Is he alive? Does it matter?" Eleanor's eyes blazed. "Yes," she said, "it matters." Richard studied her for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. A hint of respect, perhaps, or amusement. "Your father was weak," he said finally. "He did not have the stomach for the world as it really is. But you are different. I can see it in your eyes." He stepped closer, and Vincent tensed, ready to move. "I could use someone like you," Richard said. "Someone smart, someone tough, someone who understands that rules are for people who are afraid to win." Elena's voice was ice. "I would rather die." Richard laughed. "That can be arranged," he said. He turned back to Vincent. "You have until tomorrow night. Bring the girl to the warehouse on Halsted Street, and we will call this matter settled. If not—" He shrugged. "Well, you know how these things work." He and his men left as quickly as they had arrived, leaving silence and fear in their wake. Vincent turned to Elena. "Are you all right?" She was shaking now, the bravado of the confrontation giving way to raw emotion. "No," she said, "I am not all right. I have spent 2 years trying to escape that man, and now he has found me." "He will not hurt you," Vincent said, "I promise." Eleanor laughed bitterly. "You cannot promise that. You cannot protect me from him." "No one can." Vincent walked over to her and took her hands in his. "Look at me," he said. She looked up, and he saw the fear in her eyes, but also something else, a spark of defiance that had not been extinguished. "I have spent my whole life dealing with men like Richard Blackwell," Vincent said. "I know how they think, how they operate, and I know their weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" "Pride," Vincent said. "Arrogance, the belief that they are untouchable, that no one can stop them." He paused. "That belief is going to be his downfall." Eleanor frowned. "What are you planning?" Vincent smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Something that Richard will never see coming," he said. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Vincent made phone calls, gave orders, moved pieces on a chessboard that only he could see. Elena did not understand all of it, but she trusted him. She had no choice. By the time the sun set on the following day, everything was in place. "Are you sure about this?" Marco asked, as they drove toward the warehouse on Halsted Street. "No," Vincent admitted, "but it is the only way. And if it goes wrong, then we will deal with the consequences." Elena sat in the back seat, silent, her hands folded in her lap. She was wearing the same midnight blue dress from the party, but now it felt like armor, like a symbol of everything she had been through and everything she was about to face. The warehouse was an abandoned building on the industrial outskirts of the city. It had been used for storage once, but now it was just another empty shell, forgotten by everyone except the people who used it for secret meetings and illegal transactions. Richard was waiting inside, surrounded by his men. He smiled when he saw Elena. "You came," he said. "I was not sure you would." "I am here," Vincent said. "Now let us talk." Richard spread his hands. "There is nothing to talk about. You give me the girl and we go our separate ways. Simple. Nothing is ever simple with you, Richard." Richard laughed. "True enough." He turned to Eleanor. "Come here." Eleanor did not move. Richard's smile faded. I said, "Come here." And I said no. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Richard's face darkened. "You do not understand the situation," he said. "You are not in a position to refuse." Eleanor lifted her chin. "I understand the situation perfectly," she said. "You are a thief and a criminal. You destroyed my family and countless others, and you think you can do whatever you want because you have money and power and men with weapons." "That is exactly what I think," Richard said, "because that is exactly how the world works." "Not anymore." Elena reached into her dress and pulled out a small device. It was a recording unit, state-of-the-art, activated by a button hidden in the fabric. "Every word you have said tonight has been recorded," she said. "Every admission, every threat. And right now it is being transmitted to a server that you cannot touch." Richard's face went white. "You are bluffing, am I?" Elena smiled. "Try me." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Richard began to laugh. "Clever," he said. "Very clever. But you forget recordings can be disputed. Lawyers can argue, evidence can be suppressed." "Not this time," Vincent said. He stepped forward, and his men fanned out behind him. "You see, Richard, you made a mistake. You assumed that because I work outside the law, I have no friends inside it. What are you talking about?" As if in answer, the doors of the warehouse burst open. Federal agents poured in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Richard's men dropped their weapons and raised their hands. Richard himself stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief. "Richard Blackwell," a voice called out. "You are under arrest for fraud, extortion, and conspiracy to commit multiple offenses. You have the right to remain silent." The rest was drowned out by the chaos of the arrest. Elena watched as Richard was handcuffed, as his empire crumbled around him. She felt nothing, no satisfaction, no triumph, just a vast, empty relief. Vincent appeared at her side. "It is over," he said. "Is it?" He was silent for a moment. "Richard will go to prison," he said, "for a very long time. But the damage he has done, the lives he has destroyed, that cannot be undone." Elena nodded. She knew that better than anyone. "What about my father?" she asked. Vincent hesitated. "We found records," he said, "in Richard's files. Your father was taken to a facility in Belarus. He was held there for several months. And then? Vincent paused. "I am sorry, Elena. He did not survive." Elena closed her eyes. She had known, of course. Deep down she had always known. But hearing it out loud, having it confirmed, was still like a knife to the heart. "How?" she asked. "Does it matter?" "Yes." Vincent sighed. "He tried to escape," he said. "They caught him. The rest, you do not need to know the details." Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she opened her eyes. "Thank you," she said, "for telling me the truth. I'm sorry I could not do more." "You did enough," Elena said. "You gave me answers. You gave me justice." She paused. "You gave me a second chance." They stood together in the warehouse, surrounded by the wreckage of Richard Blackwell's empire, and watched as the night gave way to dawn. 6 months later, Elena stood on the deck of the Caruso mansion, watching the sun rise over Lake Michigan. The water was golden, the sky streaked with pink and orange, and the air was fresh and clean. She was no longer the same woman who had been found in a doorway on a rainy November night. She had gained weight, lost the hollow look in her eyes, and found a sense of purpose that had been missing for years. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared behind her with a cup of coffee. "Beautiful morning," the housekeeper said. "Yes," Elena agreed. "It is. Mr. Caruso would like to see you in his study." Elena nodded and made her way through the house. She knew these halls now, knew every room and corridor and secret passage. It had become her home, as strange as that seemed. Vincent was waiting at his desk, surrounded by papers and photographs. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "Sit down," he said. "I have news." Elena sat. "What kind of news?" "Richard Blackwell's trial begins next week," Vincent said. "The prosecutors are confident. With the evidence we provided, plus testimony from other victims, he is looking at decades in prison." Elena nodded. She had followed the case obsessively, reading every article, watching every news report. It was important to her, not just for revenge, but for closure. "There is something else," Vincent continued. He pushed a folder across the desk. "Something I think you should see." Elena opened the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, legal papers. She frowned, not understanding. "After your father disappeared," Vincent explained, "Richard's people took everything. Your family's assets, your home, your savings. All of it was funneled into shell companies and hidden accounts." Elena nodded. She knew this. "What you may not know," Vincent continued, "is that we have been tracking those accounts, following the money, so to speak." He paused. "We found it, Elena, all of it." Elena stared at him. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that your family's money has been recovered." Vincent smiled. "Not all of it, but most. Enough to give you a fresh start, anywhere you want." Elena looked down at the documents, her eyes filling with tears. She did not know what to say. The money was not important, not really. What mattered was what it represented: her father's hard work, her family's legacy, the life they had built together before Richard Blackwell had destroyed it all. "I do not know how to thank you," she said finally. "You do not need to thank me," Vincent said. "You earned this. You fought for it." He paused. "Your father would be proud." Elena wiped her eyes. "What will you do now?" she asked. Vincent leaned back in his chair. "I am getting old," he said. "Tired. I have been thinking about stepping back, letting the next generation take over." He smiled. "Maybe I will travel, see the world, find out what life is like when you are not always looking over your shoulder." "And your business?" "My business will continue," Vincent said, "but with some changes. I have been thinking about what you said, about second chances, about helping people instead of hurting them. He shrugged. Maybe it is time to try something different. Elena studied his face. She saw the lines around his eyes, the grey in his hair, the weariness that came from a lifetime of difficult choices. But she also saw something else, a glimmer of hope, of possibility, a chance for redemption. I think Sophia would have liked that, she said. Vincent's eyes glistened. Yes, he said, I think she would. They sat in silence for a moment, two people whose lives had collided in the most unlikely way, finding in each other a reason to believe in the future. What about you? Vincent asked finally. What will you do? Elena smiled. I have been thinking about that, she said. For 2 years I was running, from my past, from my pain, from myself. But now I feel like I can finally stop. And do what? She looked out the window, at the lake, at the sky, at the endless possibilities that stretched before her. I want to help people, she said. People like me. People who have lost everything. People who need a second chance. She turned back to Vincent. You showed me that kindness can change a life. I want to pass that on. Vincent nodded slowly. There are organizations, he said. Charities, foundations, groups that do that kind of work. I could introduce you, I would like that. Vincent stood and walked around the desk. He took her hands in his, looking into her eyes. You have come a long way, he said, from that doorway to here. It has not been easy, and there will be more challenges ahead. But I believe in you, Eleanor. I believe in what you can become. Eleanor squeezed his hands. Thank you, she said, for everything. They embraced, two broken people holding each other together, and for a moment, the world outside did not exist. The party that had shocked Chicago society was just the beginning. Elena's transformation from homeless woman to advocate for the displaced would become legendary. She founded the Volkov Foundation in her father's name, providing shelter, education, and legal services to immigrants and refugees. Within 5 years, it had helped thousands of people rebuild their lives. Vincent, true to his word, stepped back from his business dealings. He spent his remaining years traveling, volunteering, and making amends for the sins of his past. He died peacefully at the age of 71, surrounded by people he loved. And Elena, the woman with the long, messy hair who had shocked a party full of wealthy strangers, became a symbol of hope for people around the world. Her story was told and retold, passed from person to person, a reminder that second chances are real and that kindness can change everything. She never forgot the night that Vincent Caruso stopped his car in the rain. She never forgot the fear and the hunger and the cold, but she also never forgot the warmth of the blue room, the gentle hands of the people who had transformed her, the feeling of walking down those stairs in her midnight blue dress. She had been given a second chance, and she had made the most of it. That was all any of us could do. The Mafia boss gives a second chance to a homeless woman. Her long, messy hair shocks the party. But the real shock, the real miracle, was what happened next. A life, rebuilt, a legacy honored, a future born from the ashes of the past. And somewhere in the streets of Chicago, another lost soul waited for someone to stop their car in the rain. If you watched this story until the end, leave a comment saying I watched until the end, so I can know you and see who really enjoys the stories here on this channel. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real. And if you are not already subscribed, join us for more stories of redemption, transformation, and the power of human kindness. Because everyone deserves a second chance, even you.